Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining the first installment of our new Geomagic Freeform Product Spotlight series. This webinar is focused on the organic design functionality in Geomagic Freeform. I appreciate you joining us today, and I hope you'll be able to join us on future Product Spotlight webinars in the future. A few housekeeping items before we get started. As you may have noticed, all attendees' lines were muted upon joining the webinar. Therefore, please use the Q&A button on your screen to submit any questions as we go along. And in an effort to abide by our 20-minute time allotment, we may not have time to address questions live during the webinar. If that is the case, we will follow up with you after the webinar with an answer to your question. Additionally, we will make answers to all frequently asked questions available for all of you who have attended. Finally, in a couple of days, you'll be receiving a follow-up email with a link to view the recording of this webinar, as well as a copy of the file that is used for today's demonstration. Once again, thank you for joining us today. And now I'm going to pass it along to Jeff Moody, a Geomagic Application Engineer, and he will be demonstrating an organic design workflow that is commonly used throughout the Geomagic Freeform user community. Jeff, it's all yours.
Thank you, Adam. Hello, everybody. Once again, my name is Jeff Moody. I'm an applications engineer with 3D Systems software, and today I'm going to be demonstrating some basic techniques in Freeform. So traditionally, Freeform has been very popular in the medical industry, the toy industry, and the shoe industry because it offers a comprehensive tool set that allows those users to sculpt, detail, and deform virtual clay into any form. Forms like organic models with complex features that you couldn't model in traditional CAD packages. And even if you could model them in traditional CAD packages, it would take an enormous amount of time. The more time it takes, the more costly it becomes. So in the end, the benefit to the user is a time and cost savings. Additionally, it's pretty awesome to model a dinosaur and then add manufacturing parting lines in the same application. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to create a wrist brace. My start point is going to be CT mesh data, and I'm going to take that all the way to a completed product in about 20 minutes. So let's go ahead and get started. So Freeform is a very flexible tool. It allows us to have multiple start points. We can import data from MRI or CT scanners, laser scanners, or traditional CAD packages. File types include STL, OBJ, PLY, IGES, or step files. For this instance, I'm going to be using CT data that has been converted into a mesh STL, and now I'm going to go ahead and convert that into digital clay and begin to work. So you'll notice that this application is object-based instead of history-based. The benefit there is history-based trees can become very cumbersome very quickly, whereas an object-based tree, you're just applying processes to different objects, which makes it easier to manage. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this one more time, and I'm going to call this brace. So this is going to be the beginning of my brace body. And you can see that the surface is very rough. That comes from the mesh data. There might be some outliers or some triangles that are in the wrong spot. In any case, I'm going to take my tool here, my smooth tool, and then I'm just going to smooth out the edge because I want my brace body to be really nice and smooth. So you can see here that I'm just quickly smoothing over the entire surface, and maybe remove a bump here. Looks like there's a little bump here in the wrist. And we'll go over to the palm and remove some lines here and here. That looks pretty good. Okay, so next I'm going to create the body, I'm going to offset this by 3 millimeters. I'm just going to select the Emboss Area tool, select the entire thing, and offset it by 3 millimeters. And that will create the basis for my guide body. So a couple operations we need to do now is we need to remove the fingers, remove the thumb, and create a wire cut here in the back. So to start, I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to select Curve, and I'm going to have it on Fit to Clay. So that allows me to just make a point, and put a couple more points here. And you can see that the curve is automatically fitting to the clay. That looks pretty good. If I didn't like it, I can go back and move this a little bit. That looks pretty good. And now I'm going to select ridge, and I'm going to add a ridge to this curve. And if I make that transparent, you can see that it's actually a ribbon. And what I'm going to use this ribbon for is it's going to be a cutting tool. So I'm going to make it a separate piece with a high clay coarseness, so it makes it a sharp cutting tool. And I'll go ahead and add that, and it's going to display here. Okay, so I can go ahead and remove that from the brace. And you can see that I have a good cut line. Oop. Cut line here. Let me turn off the colors real quick. So I'll go ahead and hide the ridge. And now I can remove the arm itself from this brace, which will give us a hollow brace body. Cool. Now what I need to do is remove the thumb. And to do that, I don't have really any meaningful way that I need to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and select the selection tool. And that gives me a bunch of different options to work with, like box select, polygon select, lasso select, or seed select. Now I'll go ahead and use the polygon select here. And I'll just kind of outline the thumb, push it all the way through, and delete. So when I hide the arm, it's kind of a hollow cavity. Now this allows me to use the seed select. I can then select the body and then do an inverse select and remove everything that I don't want that's not attached to this body. And you can see that we have the beginning of a brace body here. And it looks like this area is a little smooth or a little thin, so I need to create a mask. And then that allows me to add clay instead of subtract clay when I'm using my smooth tool or my hot wax tool. I'll go ahead and fill in a little bit here. A little bit more right here, make it just super strong for this end user. All right, that looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and turn off my mask. All right. So let's move on to the final body cut here. I'm going to be using a wire sketch, and to do that, I need to make a plane. So I'm going to make a plane and orient it to my view and have it touch the clay. Then I'm going to use freehand curve to create an outline. And that looks pretty good, and I'll just create one more curve here to enclose it. And I'll shrink the plane down. Then I'll use my wire cutting tool and select this sketch and cut all the way through my part. That's pretty good. So let's say that this person wants a two-part brace. He wants a top and he wants a bottom, and he wants them to be kind of unique. So we'll go ahead and create some parting lines on the side here. And again, we'll just repeat this process. I'll create a plane, make it normal to my view, and then I'll use this free curve here and create a unique parting line. And I'll offset that parting line by 2 millimeters. Just set it up, and then I will close this out so that I can use the wire cutting once again and make this cut. I'll select it. I don't want it to go all the way through because maybe I want a different line on this opposite side, and I'll go ahead and cut. All right, that looks good. So let's go over to this side, and what I'm going to do is just get a close alignment here, and then repeat that process. Create a plane, put it normal to my view, and then create the curve. And we'll start from here. Looks pretty good. Once again, offsetting this by 2 millimeters. And instead of closing the box, I'm just going to draw a couple lines. Maybe I'll close it on this side. It's pretty tight. And I'll use the trim tool to trim up my sketch and then shrink up my plane. And then once again using the wire cutting tool. And let's put it right there. All right, it's pretty nice. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this. I'll hide the 2 planes here. So let's see. We need to cut this this gap in between the thumb and the fingers, and there's no real meaningful way for me to do that. I don't really have a set plan to do that, so I'm just going to use this box select and make a size, and then push it all the way through the clay. Once again, deleting. Now I have 2 parts, but in my part tree it is still 1. I can then use seed select. I can select this bottom part, and then I can cut it and paste. So this is where it really gets fun and we can really start to do some fun stuff. First I'm going to change out the clay coarseness because processes down the lane are going to be detailed and I want to have some fine detail in the clay part. Same with the brace. I'll change that to 0.4. And that makes it a stiffer clay, which gives me more detail when I'm doing texturing and things of that nature. So let's say this person wants to have kind of a grippy feel on here, and he wants to have like a rubbery texture. So I will select that bitmap, and I'm going to orient in this direction. I'm going to change this to 200, so it's a little bit smaller. Just put it right about there, and we'll bump it out by 0.5. Let's take a little bit, and then once we're done, we can see that we have a nice bumpy surface here. If this is printed out or if this is made in rubber, it's going to be a really good, it's going to be a really sticky surface for this bottom piece here. But we don't want to have that in the thumb or in the finger area, so I'll go ahead and smooth this area out. So this guy has no problem using this brace. I'll just go along this ridge and make a nice radius here, or a nice smooth edge. And I'll do that on the forearm part also. All right, that's pretty nice. All right, so we'll move to the top part of the brace. And I'll just go ahead and put a company logo on there. So once again, I'm selecting the emboss with image. I'm going to select this logo. And I'm going to change it to flatten onto plane. And then I'm going to orient, I'm going to change the aspect ratio to something manageable. And we'll just move that right here somewhere. Looks pretty good. And once again, we'll just bump this out by 1 millimeter. I'll go ahead and apply that. And that looks pretty nice. Now let's go ahead and add a name and make this for just any one person so they can recognize it easily. Once again, I'm going to use a plane and a sketch operation. So I've created my plane. It's oriented to my view. And I'll make it touch the clay. And I'll just select here. And oh, I've already got a name in there. So we'll create new. And then I will edit it to get it in the correct orientation here. And that looks pretty good. I'll shrink that plane down, and then again, I'll use the wire cutting process. So instead of this time, instead of pushing it out or pushing it in, I'm going to use the raise, and it's going to raise this name off of this surface here. And I want to do that by probably 1 millimeter is good. So then we can go ahead and hide that. Now we've got a nice brace for Kyle Parker. And maybe we want to add like a little artistic feel to it. So once again, I'll select emboss area, and I'll use this custom image here, and I'll find a pretty meaningful spot. Looks like right there is pretty good, and I'll just stamp it onto the surface of the part. And then again, just maybe one more time, right here. And that looks pretty good. Okay, and so now we have a little bit of cleanup to do. I'll go ahead and return this to solid. I'll select my eraser option here, and then I'll just start to remove these dots that I don't want to have, because maybe they're too close to something, or maybe they're too stretched here, like here on the edge. I'll go ahead and remove that one, remove that one. I'll keep a couple more of these. This one's pretty stretched. This one's really stretched. And one more. Then we'll go ahead and just add a couple of these back in using my little tool here. That looks pretty good. Actually, I'll Control-Z that, and I'll put it right over the top of that one. Okay, maybe make a couple smaller ones to bring this whole thing together. One more big one. Right there. Okay. That looks pretty good. Oh, wait. All right, that looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is push this entire pattern through the top part of this. 5 millimeters. Okay. And I'll apply. So what this is going to do is it's going to create gradations where you see gradations, and it's going to shove it all the way through the top of the model here. So we have a couple of cleanup items to do. I'm kind of a lazy designer, so I didn't erase all of these as much as I should have. That's okay. We can go ahead and go in and shrink this ball down a little bit. And I'll select that area. It's kind of a mess. Select this area just a little bit. Let's see where else. There we go. Last but not least, side over here. Then once we have all the areas that we need to clean up selected and ready to go, we'll just go ahead and hit defeature. And basically what that's going to do is equalize the dent with all the surrounding voxels. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove the arm from the brace to get rid of all of this stuff inside these holes here. And now once I've done that, I can go ahead and it looks like there's a little bit of a mess there. So I'll just hit that, put it on low, and turn on the arm, and now we have a finished product. Last but not least, we can go ahead and give it some color, make it really unique. I just happen to like blue, so I'll make this blue, and I like the, I think this underside's rubber, so probably a light gray, something like that. And there we have a finished product in about 20 minutes. So once we're done with that, oops. If you guys have any additional questions, please visit 3dsystems.com. For sales information and pricing, please email geomagic.sales.americas@3dsystems. If you would like a trial version or if you have technical questions, please visit gettingstarted@geomagic.com. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it back over to Adam.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff. I really appreciate it. So this brings us to the end of our Geomagic Product Spotlight webinar on organic design and Geomagic Freeform. Please be on the lookout for invitations to future Freeform product spotlights from 3D Systems. As I mentioned earlier, in the coming days, each of you will receive an email with a link to the recorded version of this webinar, as well as some useful links regarding Freeform and answers to any frequently asked questions. For those of you that did ask a question during the webinar, we are reaching the end of our 20-minute time allotment, so we'll be sure to follow up with you with an answer to your question in a timely manner. So thank you very much again for joining us, and have a good rest of your day.